Welcome to Nourish and Shine, where I talk with passionate leaders in the fields of nutrition, functional and integrative medicine, and wellness, providing inspiration and practical advice to nourish your mind, body, and spirit, optimize your health, and live a whole, vibrant life starting now. The Nourish and Shine podcast is provided for educational and informational purposes only, and it is not medical, mental health, or healthcare advice. The information presented here is not intended to diagnose, treat, heal, cure, or prevent any illness, medical condition, or mental or emotional condition. Please make sure you consult with a trusted healthcare professional before you make any changes. My absolute favorite quote from today's interview is menopause is not a disease. I am so thankful to be able to talk with Joan today. She is from Ayurveda with Val and is going to share with us all about Ayurveda and menopause and how we can use Ayurveda to help the natural transition through menopause and really feel more supported and healthy as we move through this phase of our lives. I hope you really enjoy this episode. I know I enjoyed recording it. And if you did, please feel free to leave me some feedback or leave me a rating or review on iTunes. Enjoy. Welcome to Nourish and Shine. Today I'm talking with Val from Ayurveda with Val. Welcome to the show. Thank you so much for joining me.
Hello. Thank you so much, Annie, for having me in your show.
Oh, I really appreciate you being here. And we have such a great topic today. We're talking menopause and Ayurveda. But before we get into that, I'd love for you to tell us about yourself.
Yes. So I'm 51. I am French, as you may notice from my accent. I live in San Diego with my family. I moved here a little bit more than 8 years ago for my work initially, and we've been enjoying life here since then. I have been into yoga and for, oh my God, I don't know how many years, but maybe more than 15 years. I discovered that because I had to travel a lot for my work as a professional, and I thought it was the best way for me to continue doing things wherever I was in the world. In my hotel room or on the road. So I really started, approaching yoga as with the physical aspect, but then I quickly moved into the more spiritual and mental practices. And I wanted to get deeper into that. So I decided to certify as a yoga teacher to put some framework into the knowledge that I wanted to acquire. And then I went to India to actually finish the certification. And that's when I got introduced to Ayurveda for the first time 8 years ago in Kerala, as I was finalizing my yoga training certification. And I instantly felt it was really very complementary and the natural extension of everything I've been learning in yoga. So that's when I started digging into Ayurveda, and since then I've been really fascinated by this very elegant but complex system and way of approaching life in general, and I decided also to train on as an Ayurvedic health counselor. So that's what I've done. So that's my path from yoga to Ayurveda, and today I'm kind of combining everything in more of a lifestyle approach than really two separate disciplines, because I think they really make so much sense, and they're very coherent together as a whole lifestyle.
And we had on France Brunel a few episodes ago talking about Ayurveda and a seasonal approach. But I love that we're going to talk today really about Ayurveda and menopause. So definitely people should go back and listen to the episode with France. But today's episode, I think, is going to be really a nice spin on Ayurveda and how to use it through a transition in life. But before we get into that, let's talk about what exactly is Ayurveda.
Yes, so let me, yeah, I think, so you can obviously listen to France, and I think she made a pretty good introduction to what Ayurveda is. I would say for me, it's really a whole lifestyle. So obviously the three pillars of Ayurveda are digestion, the food, the self-care, and the sleep. Um, but it's more than that. It's a whole system of how we connect to our own unique nature as individuals and with nature as a whole. As you know, Ayurveda originates more than 5,000 years ago in India. People used to say it's the science sister of yoga, but I would say for myself, it's the big sister of yoga, because I think it gives an outlook on life and how we connect to life and the planet and the energies that is superior to yoga. And yoga is kind of one of the branches of Ayurveda, according to me. Yeah, so it's very holistic. As I said, it's very personal because it is the individual in body and mind as being unique, and so it's not one size fits all. So everything in Ayurveda is very personal, and it's based on this very elegant concept that all life on the planet comes from the five elements: space, air, fire, water, and earth. And from that derives the three doshic personalities or energies that we call Vata, Pitta, and Kapha. And each dosha has its own attributes and qualities. And so the whole goal of Ayurveda, if you will, is to prevent imbalance and keep all of that into balance to actually create a sustainable healthy, balanced way of life that will prevent any disease to happen.
One of the things I love, like you said, is really the balance, and that balance changes. So it's not static. Like once you're so much vata and so much pitta and so much kapha, it doesn't always stay like that exact proportion. It can
No,
depend on the seasons and the stage of your life and so many other
totally.
things. Well, I'd love to transition into talking about menopause and how you relate Ayurveda and menopause.
Yes, absolutely. So before we get into how menopause can be different, whether you're Vata, Pitta, and Kapha, I would like to start with saying something that to my heart is very important, is that first and foremost, menopause is not a disease. I hear so many women and men, and society in general, are talking about, how terrible this moment in life is and how bad the symptoms are, and that we should totally, eradicate that, and just as if it was a disease. But let's remember that menopause is a natural and transition phase in life. Like, puberty is a transition phase in the life of a girl or a boy. And I would say even more than that, menopause is is a protective mechanism that is preventing our body as women to actually, continuing to create babies, because we're getting to a stage in our life where it would not be healthy for us. It could even be dangerous for us and the baby to to happen. So I'd like to change this outlook on menopause, and so when you look at it this way, you're thinking, okay, this is a natural phenomenon, and you want to apply the minimum chemical responses to the pains and the discomfort that menopause can create, and and of course, you don't want to suffer, and no woman should suffer. This is definitely not what I'm saying. And when when you suffer too much of whatever symptom of menopause happen, you obviously need to heal the pain and stop the suffering. So I'm not against chemicals and allopathic and modern medicine at all, not at all. But in general, most of the discomfort that women experience are bearable and mild enough that we can try to listen to them, understand what they're saying to us, and apply some natural responses from Ayurveda and other fields to try to attenuate them. So I'd say menopause is natural. Minimum chemical is required. Ayurveda can provide a lot of responses. And it's also, when you start digging into Ayurveda, it just opens the door to looking at the rest of your life. Menopause is an opportunity to change a lot of other things that you think you were doing right, but you're not necessarily doing it right. Because when you start to understand your dosha, your personal unique constitution, body and mind, then you start changing the way you eat. You start applying the right self-care that will balance your dosha, and eventually it will benefit also all the symptoms of menopause, because you're creating a more healthy lifestyle, and that sets the foundation of how you will be strong and healthy in the second part of your life. So I think it's important to start from that point of view, and then talking about Ayurveda. Yes, whether you Vata, Pitta, and Kapha, you will experience different types of discomfort at menopause. Each dosha will manifest differently. So, for example, for Vata people, there will be a lot of sleeping irregularities, sleeping problems, a lot of nervousness, anxiety, a lot of constipation, a lot of vaginal dryness, because Vata is dry by essence. So menopause, in the life of in the evolution of life, menopause is known as the Vata time. Menopause is drying for the system. So when you apply that to somebody who already has a Vata quality, which is dry, then it's even more dry. So we need to nourish, we need to oil, we need to balance the dryness for Vata people more than anybody else. So that's for Vata. Basically Pitta people, Pitta women will have a lot of hot flashes because Pitta is hot by essence. They will have night sweats. They will have a lot of manifestation on their skin, such as rashes and acne. It's not unusual for Pitta women to experience acne at menopause. They will have irritability, a lot of angry. They will have increased blood pressure and often urinary tract infections. Something that is less known, but it does happen more frequently at menopause, especially on Pitta women. And for Kapha, it's more about slow digestion, digestive problems, weight gain, retention of fluid, a sense of being lethargic, heaviness, a lot of depression cases on Vata women at menopause. A sense of sluggishness, of being sleepy all the time, no energy, bloating and swelling also, this whole thing of, everything is stagnant, the energy is not moving inside my body, and the digestion and the fluids are not moving correctly. So that's for Kapha women. So so everybody will react differently, and so that's very interesting if you look at it this way, and from the Ayurvedic perspective, because then you can apply different recipes based on your own constitution.
I really appreciate your explanation specific to the doshas too. That's the first time I had really thought about the doshas and menopause in that way. And it really makes me question, even starting to apply this in perimenopause, so that you're going into menopause
Mm-hmm.
really prepared, especially like as Vata, if that's the Vata time of life. As far as digestion goes, that's really one of the staples of Ayurveda. Can you speak to how Ayurveda and digestion influences one's experience of menopause?
Yes, absolutely. So, and I think that's a very good transition to the discussion that I usually have with women around me, because then the next question they would ask me is, okay, what do I need to do? And I always say, first and foremost, what you have to start with is your digestion and clearing, detoxifying your whole GI tract, your digestive system, because that's where everything starts. If you want to do something on a foundation that has a lot of toxins on it, it's not going to serve you. It's not going to create any result. It's like trying to, I don't know, putting more, I don't know, trying to put something on a face that has a ton of makeup, and you want to treat your skin, and your skin is not clean. That doesn't make sense. So first you have to go through the detoxification of your GI tract, and Ayurveda has this detox cleansing recipe and system that is very gentle and easy for everybody to do, based on a traditional recipe called the khichdi, and that's usually how I advise women to start with. So khichdi is easy to do. You can do it in your home. It's a basic recipe that everybody knows in India. There's so many different ways of doing it, but as I used to say, there's as many khichdi recipes as there are Indian grandmothers. But but if you want to, so you can do your own. But the beauty of it is that you should respect the mix of spices, because it's been defined to be the most efficient to be digestible and cleanse and detox the GI tract. So khichdi is based on mung, dal bean, basmati rice, a little bit of ghee, which is clarified butter, and organic sesame oil, and then a number of different spices such as mustard seed, cumin, turmeric, black pepper, coriander, fennel, fenugreek. You also put some cardamom, some cloves, some bay leaves if you want. That's not necessary, but you can do that, and some fresh cilantro on the top if you know in the end too. So you can do that at home, and there's tons of recipes out there on the web, or you can find one on my blog, and you do that for ideally 3 days. And together with the khichdi, you would drink another very traditional Ayurvedic recipe called the CTF tea, and CTF stands for cumin, coriander, and fennel. And those three spices also combine ideally to work on the digestive fire and help the absorption of nutrients, as well as stimulating the lymphatic system. So CCFT also is an easy recipe to find. You can find the dosage of all of that on my website. But so you make that at home with cumin seeds and fennel seeds and coriander seeds and water, and you drink that all day long. And you eat as much khichdi as you want, because. And that's the beauty of it. This mono diet is easy to do because, first of all, it's good. I mean, from my test, it's very savory. And second, it's you don't feel like you're doing a diet and you don't feel depleted or tired. It's very nourishing. It's gentle. You never feel like you're starving or anything. So you can easily do it for 2 or 3 days, and it's so efficient. And once you've done that, then you can start reviewing your food diet and your your self-care protocols according to your particular body mind constitution from an Ayurvedic perspective. But you have to do the cleansing and the reset of your digestive system first.
And I love khichdi. That's something I really enjoy making. And it's really pretty simple. It just takes a little bit of time and preparation, but I think it's pretty simple. And like you said, super nourishing. Ghee especially adds that really like nourishing grounding element to it. Um, as far as khichdi goes, with the spice mix, do you make your own spice mix or are you buying like a pre-made spice mix?
No, you know what? I used to buy it, but to be honest, I like to do it myself because I think it's fun to do, and you can do it in advance and have it always ready, and it's not that hard to do. And also for me, because I'm a very vata person, I like to add a lot of ginger and turmeric. And my particular taste is also that I love cardamom, so I'm pretty heavy on that. And I also love fennel. So you will adapt a little bit based on your taste. I'm not a fan of ghee, for example. On a side note, for some reason I don't love the taste of it so much, but that's okay because you can replace that with sesame oil, as I said, or olive oil. And that's the thing with Ayurveda, and I think we need also to have a different outlook on how we practice our Ayurveda here in the West, because we don't live 5,000 years ago in India, and we have different things around us. So khichdi is a pretty traditional recipe, and I think all the spices are important. But it doesn't really matter if you add a little bit more of this and this. You have to make it your own, and that's what I said to people. Appropriate, embody, make it your own. Try what you like, and because if you're doing something that you don't like, you're not going to do it again, or it's not going to be enjoyable. And having fun and enjoy and loving what you're doing and eating is part of the process. It's part of how you are going to digest it, and it's how you just going to enjoy life in general. So we have to adapt those recipes based on our own taste and lifestyle.
Cleansing in Ayurveda really is more about building yourself up, like letting go of ama or like the toxins, but really building yourself up. And I would love to talk with you about ojas.
Menopause I see it as being a very exciting transition, and I think it's really the right moment to build more, let's say, more energy and work on our radiant and more confident and joyful we can be in the second part of our life. So one of the big problems at menopause is the hormonal drop. Estrogen and progesterone. In perimenopause, it's not a constant drop, as you know, it's just more, ups and downs. And this roller coaster is what's causing us so many troubles. And then, gradually it becomes less and less. And then at menopause, finally we have this very low, stable level of estrogen production, and our bodies finally gets to this balance or accommodation, I would say, of this low estrogen. So what we need to do is, because there's this low estrogen and progesterone production as a direct impact of what we call ojas, which is in Ayurveda our life power, our inner energy, our immunity system, our ability to maintain balance under stress and changes. So ojas is all of that. And the roller coaster of estrogen has a very strong effect on the ojas. So we need to work on boosting this ojas. And it starts with food. As I said, first of all, we need to get rid of all the toxins. So the khichdi diet protocol is a good one, but then we need to make sure that we cook fresh, vibrant food every day. We never eat, or we try to avoid as much as possible processed food or or frozen food, or food that has been stagnant too long in the fridge. After 24 hours, there is still, very less OJAS in our food itself. So we shouldn't eat food that has been stagnant for longer than that. That's my personal rule. I know it's not always easy, but you do the best you can. And then based on the different constitution, you will add what you need to boost your OJA. For example, if your Ayurvedic profile is low in kapha, you are going to increase the rich, unctuous, and oily and cooked food into your diet. That's just an example. Then OJAS is also boosted by self-care. And at menopause, and I think we'll go back to that point later, it's so much important to introduce daily self-care in our routine. And routine is something that is very important in Ayurveda in general, morning and evening routines. Our OJAS can also be affected by the sleep, and following the right sleep rhythm of Ayurveda is something that builds up your OJA. One of the big rules is going to bed before 10 p.m. And not watching any screen at least the last hour before bedtime. And instead do some reading, or do some gentle yoga, or do some meditation or pranayama, breathing exercise, or listen to some music, write in a journal, whatever you want to do, but no screen and blue light, including the phone. And ideally, you would like to wake up before 6 a.m. in the morning, to wake up at a time in a day that has the right energy to feel more, easily awakened, and not in a stagnant, more steady and sluggish time of the day that starts after 6 a.m. So that's another example of how you would like to work on your OJAS at menopause. And the last one, which is probably my favorite one, is the connection with nature. Because menopause is a very Vata moment in time, as I said, in the lifetime of a woman, menopause corresponds to a Vata energy time. So Vata is very, airy and unstable and up in the air, and we need to ground ourselves. We need to put our feet on the ground. We need to feel the connection with nature more than ever. So anything you can do to connect with nature at menopause is going to balance this Vata energy that you feel in your body.
Yeah. And so let's dive into sleep just a little bit. As far as managing like your sleep when you're going through menopause and possibly experiencing hot flashes, how do you recommend people manage their sleep rhythm?
A very big rule in Ayurveda in general, and it's not just for menopause, but for everybody, is to recognize that the 24 hours of the day are divided into their own doshic energy. So from 6 to 10 a.m. and p.m. is a kapha time. So and kapha, as we said before, is very grounded, stable, but it's also kind of stagnant and a little bit sluggish. So you don't want to wake up in this time. You want to wake up in a time that is more energetic, and that would be the Vata time. So Vata is from 2 to 6 a.m. or p.m. And that's where you would like to wake up in the morning. The Pitta time is from 10 to 2 a.m. or 10 to 2 p.m. And as I said, you don't want to be you don't want to fall asleep after 10 p.m. because then you would be into this vata energy of the day, and vata is very dynamic, fiery, ambitious, driven. There's fire. There's this there's this energy into Pitta that will keep you awake in your body and mind, and so this is not favorable for falling into sleep. So that's the first rule. And then so you were asking me for the night sweat. I think, as I said, the women who are experiencing the most night sweat are the Pitta dominant women, and for them it's even more important that they respect the rhythms that I just described before, because as a Pitta woman, if you go to bed in a Pitta time, it's Pitta plus Pitta. It's too much energy, too much fire. It's going to be very hard to fall asleep and to have a restorative sleep. So respecting the rhythms of the day is the first thing, and then you can go into some self-care that are going to be cooling for the body. For example, doing an abhyanga, a massage with cooling oil, such as coconut oil, before going to bed, is going to be relaxing and cooling for Pitta women. So that's going to diminish the night sweat. Obviously, the basic advice of being, having some air circulating into your room, those kind of things. And then again, as I said, even more for Vata and Pitta than for Kapha, you don't want to watch a screen before going to bed, because that's very stimulating for your eyes and your brain. And Pitta and Kapha people and Vata people, which I am Pitta and Vata, dominant. So I know how it feels. It does stimulate my brain, and I find it very difficult to fall asleep quietly after that. So that would be my last advice for a good sleep.
Yes, and then as far as cooling things, so you mentioned coconut oil for Abhyanga to cool the body. Do you recommend other foods or things to help cool someone when you feel that you're running hot or more pitta?
In general, the Pitta balancing foods are going to be, in general, I would say you want to avoid everything that is too spicy and stimulating. Everything that is everything that is going to be too hot in both senses, like hot in the temperature and hot in the spices, you want to avoid if you're a Pitta, because you already have this fire inside of you, so you don't need more. You don't need more fire on fire. You want to avoid. So Ayurveda traditionally tells us that you want to minimize tomatoes, carrots, beets, eggplants, onion, garlic, spinach, sour fruits, things like brown rice, corn, rye, millet. So there's a list of things that you want to avoid if you're a Pitta person, and what you would like to base your food and your diet on are a lot of fruits like apple, avocado, berries, mango, melon, pears. Or those fruits are balancing. Every sweet fruit is balancing for Pitta. Prunes, raisins, watermelon. Every sour fruit is going to be aggravating. So you want to go to the sweet fruits. In terms of vegetables, you want to eat a lot of broccoli, Brussels, cauliflower, asparagus, cucumber, celery, green beans, leafy greens, zucchini, squash. In general, every sweet and bitter vegetable is going to be balancing. And yeah, if you are not vegetarian and you eat meat, you want to avoid you know the beef and things that are too red in terms of meat, and you want to favor chicken, turkey, freshwater fish, and a little bit of shrimp. So those are the big guidelines that I would give. And again, when it comes to herbs and spices and condiments, you want to avoid anything that is too strong and too stimulating for the digestive system.
As far as temperature goes, so like I know in Ayurveda, one of the things that's really encouraged for many of the doshas, or most of the time, is cooking your food to make it more digestible, or cooking fruit even to make it more digestible, and to keep that digestive fire going, and avoiding like icy beverages and things. When it comes to menopause, are the recommendations still the same, or do they vary at all?
Yeah, totally. It's very much the same, and it's even more important because, as I said, in general, for everybody, whatever your initial doshic personality is or dominance is, menopause is a vata time. So you want to eat most of your food cooked on tooth and avoid anything that's raw in general, and cold and icy. All the smoothies and green juice that are super cold. You want to avoid anything like this. So I would say in general, a vata balancing type of diet is good for everybody. So you would like your food not to be too dry. Like for example, all the nuts and dried fruits you would try to minimize. You can have some, but not too much. Sweet fruits are usually balancing. As I said, you want to avoid raw vegetables. You want to avoid also things that are hard to digest, unless you're very, very pitta dominant. But everything like, sprouts and cabbage are going to be harder to digest at menopause. So you want to avoid that. So yeah, I would say in general, you want to look into more, the vata type of diet at menopause time than anything else. But again, as I said, that's also the beauty of Ayurveda, is that it's very personal. So I always say those are the big guidelines, and it's kind of the rules that want to guide everybody. But play with your food. Try what works for you. If something doesn't work for you, just change it. Listen to your body. Listen how you react. Listen, how sluggish or bloating or erratic your digestion is, and do the changes. Don't just follow a rule, but make it yours, adapt it, and then experience it.
I love that, because that really brings up intuitive eating and kind of being present when you're eating,
Totally.
to know what's going on with your body and be in tune with that. When we're talking menopause, it's hard not to talk hormones. Can we dive into that?
We talked about hormones and how they affect the OJAS in general, but I would like to maybe here talk a bit about the phytoestrogens that can bring some benefits to menopause. So usually, when here in the US and in most of Europe, when you go to see your doctor and you have those first symptoms of perimenopause, your doctor will tell you that you have to take some therapy, hormonal therapy replacement type of type of prescription, and that and maybe if you feel depressed, they will tell you to take some chemicals for that. But I think, as I said, menopause is not a disease, and we should try to minimize the impact or the influence that we have on this slow decrease over time of estrogen and progesterone, because our body, needs to adapt to it. If we go against that, it means that we just delay the moment when our body will have to deal with it eventually, because you're not going to take hormonal replacement therapy for your whole life unless your condition is so bad that you really need to. And again, I'm not saying it's wrong, but that's my view about it. Hormonal therapy should not be the response. And if you want to look at balancing with hormones, there is certainly other responses that chemical hormones that the medical system is proposing us, and we can find a lot of phytoestrogens in food. For example, in soybeans, in nuts in general, in whole grain, in apple, in fennel, in flax seeds. And among the different herbs that Ayurveda proposed, there's also a number of plants that provide phytoestrogens, such as tulsi, shatavari, guduchi, aloe vera. So I think this is a good alternative to chemical hormonal replacement therapy, and it does work. And because the dosage in those phytoestrogen plants are lower, there's no risk, of being overdosed or being, adding too much to your body. It's more subtle and mild, if you will. So I would suggest that. And among those things, those little Ayurvedic plants that I mentioned before, I think the most powerful I've experienced for myself was shatavari, which is a very, very powerful phytoestrogen plant. And it's also a beautiful climbing plant with thin leaves and very graceful stems and branches, delicate flowers, if you ever see it. But what you really use for us in the purpose of phytoestrogen are the roots. So it's grounded, and it's available in the form of a powder that you can take, either included in your food. I like to take it in the form of tablets because it's a little bit bitter, so I don't like the taste of it so much. So, but if you just take it in the morning with some warm water and a little bit of lemon squeeze, then it's perfect. So that would be my recommendation. Shatavari is best for Vata and Pitta body type. And if you are a Kapha body type, you would rather look into Tulsi. That's a better suited plant phytoestrogen source for Kapha people.
And I love Tulsi because of the adaptogenic benefits as well. And I think managing stress and cortisol and everything can be so beneficial for everyone, but especially around this time as well.
Totally, yes, absolutely. In Ayurveda, we say that everything is connected, and that's also a very different approach than in Western medicine, where doctors see the body as some systems that work in silos or a collection of organs. In Ayurveda, everything is connected to everything. We have the dhatus, if you know about it, but just for our listeners, the dhatus are the different systems in the body that connect different organs and functions together to create a system, a whole system. And everything is connected: mind, body, organs. And so when you work on the hormones, you affect obviously brain and the chemicals and how you react to stress and the level of cortisol and your mood. But you also affect your libido and your level of energy and your sleep and everything. It's a whole systemic approach. And when you eat the right food, it does the same. And when you go to sleep at the right time, it does the same. So it's about putting in place those different building blocks to create a coherent lifestyle that will actually put everything in balance.
Let's talk a little bit about self-care, dinacharya. Can you talk about what you recommend as far as self-care routines go?
So, yes, absolutely. So, dinacharya is the Ayurvedic word to talk about all self-care routines, and among them, there's really three that I think are super beneficial. The first one is the Abhyanga. Abhyanga is the action of putting some oil and massaging yourself, your whole body. The second one is about scraping your tongue every morning with a tongue scraper. It is becoming more and more known in the U.S., but it used to be very exotic a few years ago. Like nobody was doing it, and today there's more and more people doing it, which is great, because we all know that the tongue is a very important cleaning organ, and there's a lot of toxins, especially during the night, that accumulate on the tongue. So you don't want to wake up in the morning and swallow all of that. So the first thing that you would do in the morning is just scraping your tongue to get rid of this, what we call ama in Ayurveda, because you don't want to ingest that in your body. So that's one thing, very easy thing to do with a tongue scraper. Then you wanna also to clean your nose with a neti pot, and you want to fill your neti pot with salted water to do it. So that's also something that I would recommend doing every day. But it's not necessarily, specific to menopause. Tongue scrapping and cleaning your nose with an neti pot should be done at every age of life. Abhyanga, position is something that I think is fundamental to do at menopause, because as we said, menopause is a very drying moment in the life of a woman. And we need to nourish our skin. We need to nourish ourselves in general and our skin in particular. So there's the traditional Abhyanga that you would do with a lot of oil, and you would really use a lot of oil and massage your whole body to pull out the toxins. And then you go into your shower and you shower. Likely, you still want to keep a little bit of this oil on your body, so you don't shower too much. And you do that, let's say, once or twice a week. And then there's the daily routine that I love to do, which is with less oil, and I do that every night. And after my shower, and I would hydrate with some, as I said, less oil, so that you can just, your skin will absorb it. And it's for me, it's not only nourishing to my skin, because I'm very vata, so my skin is very dry, and but it's also a moment of self-care and self-love. So, and I think it's very important, especially at menopause, that we give ourselves this less self-love to this body that is changing, and we need to accept the changes of our body and love this body. So that's my daily little routine that I advise everybody. And you want to choose also the oil that is good for your dosha. So if you want to be safe, you can use sesame oil, because it's very balancing for everybody. It's tridoshic. And if you want to choose a specific oil, if you're a vata, then you want to pick some oil that is very heavy and warm, just like olive and jojoba or almond, or even castor oil is very thick. But if you're Pitta, you want something more of a cooling oil with a sweet fragrance, just such as, for example, coconut oil is cooling, sunflower oil, pumpkin oil. And if you're a Kapha, you want a more of a light oil, like would be a mustard oil or a safflower or corn oil, even or even a jojoba oil would do for a Kapha. So yeah, pick the right oil for you, and if you want to be safe, just use sesame oil, and it's Tridoshik, so there's no problem with this one. It's good for everybody.
Perfect. Now let's talk a little bit about breast care as well.
Mm-hmm. So breast care is it should be part of the Abhyanga, but if you only have 5 minutes to take care of yourself, that's really on the breast that you can dedicate that you should dedicate those 5 minutes. And why the breast? Because this is where the toxins want to go. So you want to make the circulation on this part of your body to eliminate the toxins and make the fluids move. So you would and also because we have some glands on the armpit that are directly connected to the breast. You also want to make sure that you don't put some toxins through the deodorant that you use. So my 2 advice for breast care is daily massage on the breast to circulate the toxins and the fluids and eliminate the toxins, and then don't use any chemicals in your deodorant. That's particularly important for the breast because all those tissues are directly connected to everything you put on under your armpit.
I love that tip. Do you have a specific deodorant that you like, or do you make your own? What do you do there?
Well, you know what? I wish I could give you a precise advice on that, but because I'm a Vata person and I like change. I change all the time, so I've been trying a lot of things recently, and but there's a lot of options out there, and more, which is good.
I'm Vata too, so I have like 3 favorites, but I use this magnesium charcoal one, and then Primal Life Organics makes like a vanilla coconut, which is really clean that I like, or I'll just make my own with like an aluminum-free baking soda and arrowroot powder, which is like a dusting powder kind of. And sometimes I'll use like a little bit of like a lavender essential oil and dilute that in a little bit of oil and massage it on first and then dust with the powder. And it seems to work pretty well. Yoni care. So let's talk first of all about what does the word yoni mean? And then how do we care for our yonis?
Yes, well, so so we're still around this idea that Vata menopause is a Vata time of life, and everything is more and more dry in our body, including the vagina. So and that's one of the main vaginal dryness is one of the main problems at menopause. And it leads to, well, it's coming, and it's funny because it's at the root cause and also a consequence of low libido. So it's coming from pain during sex, depression, lower testosterone, and it's complex. But there's a few things that we can do, and that Ayurveda is giving us to actually ease our, let's say, nurture and rebuild the libido. First, we can use Shatavari. Shatavari, as I said before, is an adaptogen, so it will do whatever is needed. And in the case of yoni care, it's a very good nourishing herb for the vagina, and it's also a libido booster. It also acts on the depression, which is, as I said, it's an interconnect of all, many things. When you're depressed, obviously you don't have libido. When you're on libido, you don't have secretions and etc. So shatavari is a good plant to use, and you can also incorporate that into a balm that you make that will that can be used as a lubricant. So if you take a mix, so you know the ghee, the clarified butter can be used as a lubricant, and also as a nourishing balm for internal massage of the vagina. And if you put some shatavari into it, then it's becoming even more powerful. So that's something that I would recommend. And there's another procedure that we use in Ayurveda, and it's actually part of the Panchakarma system. So Panchakarma is the Ayurvedic procedure that is based on 5 different procedures that people usually do for 1 week to 5 weeks as a total reset and detox of the whole system. And as part of this protocol, there is one that is called Uttarabasti, and Uttarabasti is a procedure where you introduce medicated ghee or oil into the uterine cavity, and this is very powerful for menopause because it will from the internal from the inside nourish your whole vagina. So, for example, you can create your own Uttarabasti at home using some coconut oil, a little bit of lavender, some saffron, fennel seeds, triphala, some gluconate, and we can give the recipe in the notes show if you would like. I don't think I've put this one on my blog, but I should because it's very powerful and efficient. So that's something that you can do at home.
Yeah, that would be great. We can definitely share the recipe. As far as the best yoga and breath work for menopause, what do you have to say here?
In general, I would say everything in yoga is good if you don't go into something that is too dynamic and flow oriented. So I used to do a lot of Ashtanga Vinyasa yoga. That was my personal taste. But I realized that now what I need is more, quiet and slow practices that will ground me and calm my mind. So I'm more into Hatha yoga, Yin yoga, Kundalini yoga also to circulate the energy. Than Ashtanga Vinyasa, or definitely not hot yoga for sure. So among the few poses or asanas that I like the butterfly, Baddha. I like the Uttanasana. I like Adho Mukha Savasana, so the down dog, and also I like to practice the Ujjayi breath, which is very calming and balancing breath. So it's a pranayama, and that's I think it's very calming and balancing, and it's also a great boost for the immune system. It clarifies the mind. It works well also on the memory and the nervous system. So it's all beneficial. Ujjayi breath is really my go-to in terms of pranayama. You would do that like for about 3 to 5 minutes ideally, and you can sit on a chair or you can sit on the floor, and it's really the action of trying to recreate the sound of the ocean through your nose. So it's all about your nose, inhaling and exhaling. And focusing on the air, the sensation of the fresh air that gets into your nose, and then exhaling slowly. So what I like to do is counting to a count of five, five inhale, five exhale. And as you get more comfortable, you would increase the count to maybe 8 or 10. And yeah, that's just as simple as that. It's focusing on the sensation, not overthinking it too much, because when you overthink, you get into, a fight and flight, kind of stress response from the brain. So you just want to be relaxed, focusing your mind and your attention on your breath, counting quietly, and just do that for a few minutes and not overthinking it too much.
As far as depression and anxiety goes, I know you said these can be kind of signals to someone. Can you explain that a little bit more?
Usually, when we talk about menopause, we explain that depression and anxiety are coming from the hormonal imbalance, and that is very true. I mean, obviously, the fact that the estrogens and progesterone are decreasing, and mainly the estrogen creates a bigger, space for cortisol to express, and then cortisol is the stress hormone, and it's good in some cases, but it's mostly bad when it's too much cortisol and your body is totally emerged with this hormone all the time. And so depression is caused by hormones. But again, when I talk to women, I realize that beyond the hormonal symptoms, there's usually at menopause the rising of something that we feel is not working anymore in our life, something that is not in balance, a problem, a way of life, a lifestyle, a relationship, an old pattern, a suffering, something that has not been cleared before comes back, multiplied by 10 at menopause. Because what was acceptable before and that we could manage because we were our hormones were okay with it, then because our hormones are putting us in at stress, all those problems are multiplied and become super important and variable. So we have to address them. And I say it's a good thing. It's a good thing because then menopause becomes an opportunity to finally, look at the things that don't work and that we don't want anymore in our life, and address them and change them, whatever it can be for anybody. So I usually encourage people not to just try to deal with the symptom and try to avoid anxiety and depression, but look inside and try to understand what do they mean, what is behind, and how do I want to deal with that? How do I want to address that so that I clear that, and I enter the second half of my life with more stability, more joy, more light and more energy. I don't want to carry all those things for the second half of my life. And if I don't deal with them now, when am I going to deal with them? Now is the right moment. So it's kind of about changing the narrative around menopause and looking at it in natural and positive way, because it's a great moment for a woman to transform, change what doesn't serve us anymore, and start a new life with more alignment, authenticity, and become a happier person.
Oh, I love it. That's such a powerful message. And I love kind of the modern approach that you take to Ayurveda and how you really are changing the narrative about menopause by applying Ayurveda to someone's lifestyle during this time and really during all phases of life. Are there any final words you'd like to leave our audience with today?
So there's one message I would say, and it's it's valid for menopause, but for all the stages of life when it comes to Ayurveda. And it's exactly what you were saying before. It's really, we need to have a modern and practical view on Ayurveda. We need to adapt it to the way we live here today in the Western world. Try what works for us, use the products, the plants, and the things that are around us, and experiment and listen to our body, and then keep what works for us. And then menopause, if it was my final word, menopause, I think, is a great moment in the life of a woman. I've never felt so well. I have a lot of creative power. I have, finally feel that I finally dealt with all the problems and the sufferings and the things that I was carrying for so many years. And so I would encourage any woman to look at this moment as a transformative moment, an opportunity to change things, and to prepare a vibrant second part of their life.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much for being a guest on the show today. I've absolutely loved talking with you. If people want to connect with you, what are the best ways for them to find you online?
So there's a blog that I have that's called Ayurveda with Val. So it's a website, and you can connect with me also on the Instagram and follow me on Ayurveda with Val on Instagram.
Perfect. I'll link everything up in the show notes as well. Thank you so much again. Thank you so much for listening to Nourish and Shine. I hope that you enjoy this episode and that you'll leave me a review on iTunes so that more people can hear the podcast. I'd also love to connect with you on social media. You can find me on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. I would love to hear your questions, so please send them my way. Also, you can check out my website. It's amysapola.com. I hope that today's interview provided you with some inspiration and practical advice to nourish your mind, body, and spirit, optimize your health, and to live a whole, vibrant life. Please join me again next week for another amazing interview. Have a wonderful week. The Nourish and Shine podcast is provided for educational and informational purposes only, and it is not medical, mental health, or healthcare advice. The information presented here is not intended to diagnose, treat, heal, cure, or prevent any illness, medical condition, or mental or emotional condition. Please make sure you consult with a trusted healthcare professional before you make any changes. Welcome to Nourish and Shine, where I talk with passionate leaders in the fields of nutrition, functional and integrative medicine, and wellness, providing inspiration and practical advice to nourish your mind, body, and spirit, optimize your health, and live a whole, vibrant life starting now.